Paul Henry.
10 years of interest-free student loans. It's 23 minutes past 7 now. 10 years of writing off billions of dollars. The New Zealand Initiative claims the move was politically motivated and has been ill-targeted and costly to the taxpayer. Since the introduction then of the interest-free scheme by Labor in 2005, the government has written off $6 billion. Last year alone, the government lent $1.5 billion to students and immediately wrote off $600 million of that. Back when interest was accrued, half of borrowers paid their loans back in 7 years. Under today's interest-free scheme, it's only marginally better, taking half of borrowers 6.7 years to pay off. And what's worse, the report says rich kids are milking the interest-free scheme rather than it attracting the middle class. It's clear the New Zealand Initiative doesn't see the merit in interest-free student loans. In fact, its report suggests to restore the interest component. Joining me now is its head of research, Dr. Eric Crampton. Eric, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, executive summary, it's been a failure. Would that be fair?
Sure. We've not seen increasing tertiary enrollment rates. So overall enrollment rates have dropped from the peak that they reached in 2005 at 14%, now down to 10.2%. F's numbers plateaued from around 2008 onwards. We've not seen increases in tertiary accessibility. There's no evidence of increasing participation by, say, ethnic groups that hadn't traditionally gone into tertiary study, or at least no increases consequent to the student loan scheme. Just the prior path had increased. And we then sort of have to ask what we're getting for this $600 million a year in interest write-offs, and if there's something better we could be doing with that money. We know that twice as many kids proceed to tertiary study from decile 9 and 10 schools as do from decile 1 and 2 schools.
All right, so let's look at it, because that's the second part of this conversation, really. Yeah. If we're not giving off interest-free loans, is there a way we can redirect that money that will truly have benefits? Because if I read your executive summary correctly, the only benefit in interest-free loans was a political benefit to the Labor Party.
Well, there was a benefit to the party that introduced it. There's a benefit to those students who've taken on 0% debt because they have a few months less of overall lifetime repayments to cover it. Of course, that's been more than offset by increased borrowing under 0%.
Well, and that's the problem, because this is exactly. I mean, if money is free, you will get more of it. So you will have a bigger loan, not because the interest is on there, but because the interest isn't on there.
Well, and that has a lot of perverse consequences, too. So the government has had to put on a lot of restrictions on access to student loans because they know that if they didn't do that, rich kids would rort the system. There's no means testing. And that means that poor kids can't borrow enough to cover their living costs in expensive places to live. The system is highly regressive. Everybody pretends it's progressive, but the facts say otherwise.
No, okay. And this is interesting, because on the surface, there will be many people who see red as soon as you suggest doing anything with student loans that doesn't reduce the cost. And they will just say, oh, these people are just foul right-wingers. But the reality is, you're saying there are lots of different ways you can skin this cat. We've chosen the wrong way to do it.
Well, sure. And if we took $600 million a year that we're spending on interest rate subsidies, mostly going to rich kids, and put it instead into better means-tested allowances for students, that's what the Child Poverty Action Group was talking about 2 weeks ago in their report on the same thing. If we put some of that money into better career guidance in the high schools so that kids would know which NCEA courses they need to have success at tertiary study, so they don't wind up spending a year's tuition on courses that they could have done while they were in high school and instead are doing it as remedial study at university, that could give us a lot better accessibility, bang for our buck, for the spending we're already making. We should be redirecting it towards measures that work better.
Okay, Eric, the reason you've probably wasted your time on this report comes back to your original point that the real benefactor from interest-free loans were the politicians. The politicians will find it devilishly hard to reintroduce interest to student loans, won't they?
Well, John Key had said that it was bad economics and good politics, but it's worse than that. It's bad economics, it's bad for the students, it's bad for the tertiary sector as a whole because of the clampdowns that have had to be in place. If that winds up being good politics, that's really depressing.
Yeah, it is really depressing. Sometimes democracy can be really depressing. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. It's a fantastic report. I hope lots of people read it. I worry they won't.
Thank you.
Dr. Eric Crampton, Head of Research at the New Zealand Initiative. And as I say, if you like the full-on executive summary summary of this is, seriously, there are many different ways of skinning the cat, and interest-free loans has not achieved any of the aims that it was set up to achieve, other than political benefit for the parties that introduced it. It's 28 minutes past 7, just ahead.